Once upon a time in the ancient kingdom of Nri, there lived a warrior of unmatched valor named Ikemba. From a young age, Ikemba displayed extraordinary skill and courage, earning the respect and admiration of the entire kingdom. His prowess on the battlefield was unmatched, and he soon rose to become the leader of the king's guard. Ikemba fought many battles for King Odum, securing victories and expanding the kingdom's territories. However, despite his many achievements, Ikemba's heart yearned for something more. As the sun set over the newly conquered lands, the king summoned Ikemba and his warriors to the grand hall. The walls were adorned with tapestries depicting their glorious battles, and the air was thick with the scent of incense. King Odum, seated on his ornate throne, looked upon Ikemba with pride. "You have served me well, Ikemba," the king proclaimed, his voice resonating through the hall. "You and your men have brought great honor to Nri. For this, you shall be rewarded." The warriors cheered, but Ikemba remained silent, his eyes fixed on the king. As the celebration continued, Ikemba's mind was consumed with thoughts of Omalicha, the king's beautiful daughter. Her grace and kindness had captured his heart, and he longed to make her his wife. When the festivities had ended, Ikemba approached the king, bowing deeply. "Your Majesty, there is one favor I humbly request," he began, his voice steady but filled with determination. "I seek the hand of your daughter, Omalicha, in marriage." The hall fell silent as the king's expression shifted from pride to amusement. He threw back his head and laughed heartily. "Ikemba, you are indeed a great warrior, but you are also a lowborn. My daughter must marry someone of royal blood." Ikemba felt a surge of humiliation and anger. The king's words echoed in his mind, fueling a fire that had long been smoldering within him. He clenched his fists, his knuckles turning white, but he managed to maintain his composure. Days turned into weeks, and Ikemba's resentment grew. He felt betrayed by the very king he had served so faithfully. His dreams of a future with Omalicha seemed impossible, and his once noble heart became consumed by darkness. One moonless night, Ikemba gathered a group of loyal warriors who shared his discontent. They met in secret, their faces illuminated by the flickering flames of a campfire. Ikemba spoke with a voice of conviction, his eyes burning with determination. "We have given our blood and sweat for this kingdom," he declared. "Yet we are denied the respect and honor we deserve. It is time for change. It is time for a new ruler." The warriors nodded in agreement, their loyalty to Ikemba unwavering. Together, they devised a plan to overthrow the king and claim the throne for Ikemba. Ikemba's plan was meticulous. He knew the palace inside out, having guarded it for years. He knew the strengths and weaknesses of the guards and the secret passageways that led to the heart of the palace. Each warrior was assigned a specific role, and they trained relentlessly to ensure the plan would succeed. On the night of the coup, Ikemba's heart pounded with a mixture of excitement and dread. As the first light of dawn began to creep over the horizon, he and his men silently made their way to the palace. They moved like shadows, their footsteps silent on the cobblestone paths. As they reached the palace gates, Ikemba signaled to his men. With swift precision, they overpowered the guards, rendering them unconscious without a sound. The group split into smaller units, each heading towards their designated targets within the palace. Ikemba and his closest allies made their way to the king's chamber. They moved with deadly efficiency, dispatching any who stood in their way. The palace, once a place of safety and order, was now a battlefield. King Odum, awakened by the commotion, stood ready to defend his throne. His eyes widened in shock as he saw Ikemba enter the room, sword drawn. "Ikemba, you dare betray me?" he shouted, his voice filled with fury and disbelief. "I dare because you have left me no choice," Ikemba replied coldly. With a swift and brutal strike, he ended the king's life. The hall fell silent as the realization of their new reality set in. Ikemba's gaze shifted to Omalicha, who stood trembling in the corner. "You will be my wife," he declared, his voice leaving no room for argument, "and I will rule this kingdom as I see fit." Despite her fear and sorrow, Omalicha was forced to marry Ikemba. His reign was marked by cruelty and tyranny, bringing pain and suffering to the once prosperous kingdom. The villagers lived in constant fear, their hopes for a brighter future shattered. Ikemba's rule over the kingdom of Nri was characterized by brutality and unrelenting tyranny. As soon as he seized the throne, he imposed his iron will on the people. His reign was marked by fear, suffering, and despair. Ikemba's first decree was to impose heavy taxes on the villagers. He demanded tributes and levies that were beyond the means of most. Farmers were forced to give up a significant portion of their harvest. Craftsmen had to surrender their finest goods, and merchants were required to pay exorbitant fees to keep their stalls in the market. The weight of these taxes crushed the people. Fields that once flourished with crops now lay fallow, as farmers abandoned their lands, unable to meet Ikemba's demands. Hunger became rampant, and families struggled to find enough food to survive. The once bustling marketplace fell silent, the lively chatter replaced by the hushed whispers of despair. Ikemba ruled with an iron fist, using fear to maintain control. He held public executions regularly, punishing those who dared to speak against him or failed to meet his demands. The village square, once a place of joy and community, became a site of terror. Heads of the defiant were displayed on pikes, and the cries of the condemned echoed through the streets, serving as a grim reminder of Ikemba's power. The people of Nri lived in constant fear. Every morning, they would wake to find new decrees posted in the village square, each one more oppressive than the last. Curfews were enforced, gatherings were forbidden, and any form of dissent was met with swift and brutal retribution. Omalika, the king's daughter, was not spared from Ikemba's cruelty. Despite being his wife, she was treated as a prisoner. Ikemba kept her under strict watch, forbidding her from leaving the palace and subjecting her to his harsh demands. Her once bright spirit dimmed, and she became a shadow of her former self, trapped within the gilded cage of the palace. Omalicha spent her days in solitude, her heart heavy with sorrow. She longed for the days when her father ruled with wisdom and compassion, and she mourned the loss of her family and her freedom. Despite her suffering, she remained resilient, finding strength in her memories and the hope that one day justice would prevail. Under Ikemba's rule, the King's Guard, once a symbol of honor and protection, became instruments of oppression. They enforced Ikemba's decrees with ruthless efficiency, exploiting the villagers for their gain. Bribery and corruption ran rampant as the guards extorted money and goods from the already impoverished people. The guards would raid homes, confiscating what little the villagers had left. They would drag men and women into the streets, beating them mercilessly for perceived infractions. Families were torn apart, and the sense of community that once bound the people of Nri together was shattered. Despite the overwhelming oppression, a silent resistance began to form. The villagers, though broken and afraid, found small ways to defy Ikemba's rule. They communicated in whispers, passing messages in the dead of night. Secret meetings were held in hidden places, where plans to undermine Ikemba's authority were discussed. Among the resistance was a group of former soldiers loyal to the late king. They trained in secret, preparing for the day when they could rise against Ikemba. These men and women, fueled by the memory of their fallen king and the desire to restore justice, became beacons of hope for the oppressed villagers. As rumors of resistance spread, Ikemba's paranoia grew. He became increasingly distrustful of those around him, fearing betrayal at every turn. He ordered more frequent raids and crackdowns, hoping to crush any signs of rebellion before they could take root. Ikemba's paranoia extended to his own inner circle. He suspected his closest advisors of plotting against him and had many of them executed. This constant cycle of suspicion and violence only served to deepen the fear and resentment among the people and his own supporters. Unbeknownst to Ikemba, one of the king's sons had managed to escape the massacre. The young prince fled into the night, vowing to return and avenge his family. He sought refuge in a distant village, where he trained tirelessly, honing his skills and preparing for the day he would reclaim his rightful place. Years passed, and the prince grew into a formidable warrior. He forged alliances with neighboring kingdoms, gathering support for his cause. The tales of Ikemba's tyranny spread far and wide, and many were eager to see justice served. As rumors of the prince's return began to circulate, a sense of hope slowly started to rekindle among the people of Nuri. They whispered of the young prince who would come to save them, their faith in a brighter future slowly. The day of reckoning drew near. The prince, now a seasoned warrior, led his allies towards Nuri, determined to confront Ikemba and reclaim the throne. The final confrontation between the prince and Ikemba would determine the fate of the kingdom and its people. Would justice prevail or would darkness continue to reign? Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed today's folktale, please give it a thumbs up, share with friends, and subscribe for more captivating stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Thanks for your support, and share your thoughts in the comments below.